One of the biggest complaints about the Nintendo Switch as of late is that we now have to not only pay to play some of our favorite games online, but the service that we got to play these games online only comes with NES games, and it seems rather lackluster compared to some of the services that Nintendo provided for us in the past. I'm specifically referring to Virtual Console here, considering that this was the service provided over the last couple of generations, and that allowed us to pick and choose whichever classic games that we wanted to play on our modern consoles, which the Nintendo Switch Online service doesn't allow us to do. Now, most fans would be perfectly fine with this if they expanded the array of consoles that you could choose games from. As I mentioned, right now, only NES games are included with this service, not games like SNES ones, N64 games, Wii games, and what many fans have been requesting for, GameCube games being able to be played on the Nintendo Switch. If Nintendo expanded their array of consoles that they could provide games for on the Switch Online service, then I think that many more people would be happy to pay the price for the service and play their games online through that. While the price is relatively cheaper compared to what Xbox and PlayStation are offering in terms of their online subscription services, that doesn't make it right that Nintendo has to make us pay for something that fans really don't want to buy. They don't think it's justified to have to pay this money just to get to play some NES games, most of which they wouldn't even think of buying anyway. However, if you're in the camp of somebody who's disappointed with the Switch Online service, I may have some good news for you with a theory that I'm providing within this video. This idea, as evidenced by the title of this video, states that maybe more consoles will be coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service. In this video, I'm going to explain why I believe this theory to be true, and then after that, I'm going to get into some speculation about what types of games I think would work really well with this service and play well on the Nintendo Switch system. Let's get started. To begin, I'd like to state that the bulk of the evidence that comes for this theory, a large portion of it comes from a recent Kotaku interview with Nintendo of America COO and President Reggie. This interview was conducted a couple of weeks ago, and it did reveal a lot of significant information about the future of the Nintendo Switch, so I'll link it in the description box down below, but I am going to focus on a couple of points within this video. Specifically, what Reggie said about the N64 Classic and the future of the Nintendo Switch Online service. Let's start with the former, because I believe it is key when it comes to predicting whether or not games from other consoles will be added to the Switch Online service. Earlier on in November, a rumor stated that an N64 Classic could be revealed in a second Nintendo Direct in this month. So with this rumor being prevalent around the time of the interview, it was obvious that the interviewer wanted to bring this up to Reggie, but Reggie said in response to this that plans for an N64 Classic are, quote, not in the horizon. Now, it's definitely possible that he's lying here, as this has been done in the past by representatives for companies in interviews like this, as not to disclose some information that doesn't want to be revealed at a particular time. However, for this case, let's say he's telling the truth. Give him the benefit of the doubt here. If what he's saying is true, that would mean that there would be no modern way to play N64 games now. This is a big deal because while NES games are on the Nintendo Switch, we also had a way to play them modernly with the NES Classic, and we have a way to play SNES games modernly with the SNES Classic. But Reggie states in this interview that the original two classic systems were only really made to bridge from the Wii U to the Switch in a time period where maybe they didn't have as much software out for the Nintendo Switch as they would have liked, or maybe they didn't have enough faith that the software was going to do well as it ended up doing. And this reason for the design of the original two systems is why I really believe Reggie with his statement about the N64 Classic here. If there's no reason to release an N64 Classic because of the lack of a bridge between the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch, and all of the development focus is going to be going towards the Switch specifically, then it's understandable as to why they're not going to release an N64 Classic. But for the fans, you should provide a way for them to play these games in modern times without having to boot up their Wii U and play the games that they already bought from you on Virtual Console. Nintendo clearly has no plans to bring the Virtual Console service to the Nintendo Switch, so you're gonna have to add these N64 games to the Switch Online service eventually if you want your fans to have a way to play N64 games in a modern way. And if that's not the case, then a bunch of classics from Nintendo history that they take inspiration from for some of their newer games are going to be lost in time. This is something that Nintendo cannot do because there are so many people who want to play some of the classic games that inspired some of their favorites. Ocarina of Time, being the first 3D Zelda, had a huge inspiration clearly on Breath of the Wild, and without the existence of Ocarina of Time, who knows if we would have gotten a game like Breath of the Wild at all. But this isn't all that Reggie said in the interview. Let's move on. Reggie was then asked directly about expanding the amount of games in the Switch Online library from just NES games, and he says, quote, we'll see what comes next. So I feel that this quote almost guarantees that there is going to be some more games other than just NES games in the Switch Online service. This pretty much guarantees SNES games in my opinion, because he does not explicitly deny it. Obviously he's not going to deny it because there's going to be a bunch of people who were considering buying the service that just dipped and decided not to buy it because they have no faith that the service is going to provide what they want. However, he doesn't want to confirm anything because he's probably told not to, and Nintendo wants to build this up as a big reveal on one of their directs. So when we combine this information with the information that I just went over before about the N64 Classic, you do have some pretty solid reasons there for supporting the idea of SNES games and N64 games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online. So for a moment now, I just want to step away from the interview. Let's just focus on what we realistically think is possible for the future of Switch Online. In your own personal opinion, do you think that it's likely that we get more games than just NES ones on this service? Do you think Nintendo is just going to leave it at NES games? In my personal opinion, I think that if Nintendo consistently adds new games from other consoles over time, it makes it look like the service is much more valuable already, considering that there's more content constantly being added to it, as opposed to a chunk of games just being there from the get-go, and there's no further incentive as time goes on for more people to go on and buy the service. By Nintendo delaying games being put on the service, it's a secret strategy potentially to get people more interested in it over time and build up hype towards the next wave of content that is going to be coming to it. So you may be thinking now, okay, you talked about SNES games and N64 games potentially coming to Switch Online. You do have some decent reasons there, but what about the GameCube and Wii games? Well, I think that after you get past the N64 hump, I think that it's definitely possible to get those GameCube games put on the Switch Online. For the main reason being the progression of new games coming onto the service, and once those N64 games get on there, and people realize that Nintendo's consistently adding new consoles to this service, they have to add GameCube because that is one of the most highly requested things from all Nintendo fans across the world. There are so many GameCube classics that fans are demanding that Nintendo do a full-on remaster for, and if Nintendo doesn't want to spend the resources to do it, they could spend some more minor resources to port those games onto the Nintendo Switch and give an emulation service that people could actually pay for, when Nintendo is just losing money to these online emulation services where you could play these games for free. A few months back, it came out that Nintendo was going after some of these emulation services and trying to take them down. And do you think a possible reason for that is Nintendo trying to incentivize people to go and pay to play these games as opposed to playing them for free? So with all those reasons that I said in this video, I definitely think it's likely that more games are going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service. It's only a matter of time. Whenever the next Nintendo Direct happens to be, I think that is when we'll get the reveal of an update to the Switch Online service, and I think the next Nintendo Direct will probably be very early next year. I don't think that they'll do a Direct Mini in January this time around like they did this year. I think they're going to go a full-out Nintendo Direct, just a normal one, because it was earlier September this year that they did the last Directs, and there's lots of stuff upcoming in 2019 that Nintendo must really want to talk about. SNES games will probably get the first focus, and we'll be getting so many classics put on the Switch through that. I think pretty much every game that's included on the SNES Classic, plus hopefully Chrono Trigger, please Nintendo put that on there, maybe we'll get included with this wave of games that'll come to the Switch Online. I don't think Nintendo would want to do any reveal about this before a January Nintendo Direct, because once that rolls around, the hype around the release of Smash Ultimate and the new Pokemon games is going to have mostly died down, and there's going to be no more holiday sales to worry about. People are still going to be hyped for the DLC for Smash Ultimate, obviously, but you're not going to have to worry about selling your existing products, and you're going to be more focused on selling the products of the future, the products for 2019. And one of these big ones could definitely be more games being added to the Switch Online service. Maybe they'll add a tiered system to pay for this. Maybe if you spend this amount of money, you get all the N64 games and SNES games included within it, whereas you stay with this current package and you'll just get the NES and SNES games with it. I really hope that's not how they do it, because I think the price is fine for a virtual console service, and I think it's a really good price for the service. And if Nintendo increases it, it gets rid of that factor of a deal that many fans think they're they're going to be getting when more games come to the Switch Online service. Just for fun now, I'm going to throw out some games from other consoles that I'd like to be put on there. Let's talk about the N64. Obviously, Mario 64, it's one of my favorite games. I'd love it to be put on the service. Ocarina of Time, as I mentioned previously in this video, it's a classic Zelda. Banjo and Kazooie would be pretty interesting if Nintendo could get the rights to that. Maybe if they're put in Smash Brothers, Nintendo could end up putting that game on the Switch. Maybe it could be some sort of agreement there. Moving on to GameCube, we obviously got Mario Sunshine. It'd be really neat to have Luigi's Mansion on the Nintendo Switch to coincide with the release of Luigi's Mansion 3 that is happening next year. Mario Baseball and Strikers, as well as Mario Kart Double Dash. Those are some classic Mario spin-off titles that I love and would really hope to play on the go on a console like that. The GameCube Mario parties are considered some of the best in the entire series, and not to mention some series other than the Mario series. We got the Zelda series with games like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. There is so much stuff to choose from the GameCube era that I think would sell so many people on the service, and Nintendo could make so much more money with it. The money is sitting right there. It now just depends on whether or not Nintendo chooses to take it. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section down below, and if you enjoyed this video, you're definitely going to enjoy some of my others. I have some options for you on the screen. Remember to subscribe and check the bell icon so that you do not miss the next Nintendo uploads, which are going to be coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching.